This famous airport in which I am standing is named after famed Lieutenant Commander Edward Butch O'Hare, who got a Medal of Honor after saving battleship USS Lexington. But what is more noticeable is Edward Butch O'Hare's family tree. Edward O'Hare was born in St. Louis on March 13, 1914. Edward was the oldest, followed by two sisters, Patricia and Marilyn. O'Hare's parents, Selma and Edward J., unfortunately divorced in 1927. Edward's father moved to Chicago, where he famously ended up working for gangster Al Capone. The story of how Edward's father turned against Al Capone to testify against is often repeated between historians. In some versions of the story, his father is determined to make sure that his reputation he passes on to his son is redeemed and not one associated with organized crime. Edward J. O'Hare evidence did help convict Al Capone in November 1939, but O'Hare's father paid the ultimate price when he was gunned down by some of Capone's men. As Edward O'Hare's life progressed, he started to realize that he was destined for a military career. He was sent at the age of 13 to Western Military Academy by his parents, and he spent 5 years there from the end of 8th grade to the end of high school. He was never much of a football player, but stood out as a fine marksman and the president of the Rifle Club. In 1933, he started at the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis, where he got his nickname, Butch. When he graduated from Annapolis on the 3rd of June 1937, Edward got his first choice of duty on the battleship USS New Mexico. Butch had always been interested in naval aviation, but like all new officer, had to spend 2 years on surface warships before specializing. Once his 2-year service duty was done, O'Hare quickly moved to flight training in 1939. He learned his basics on the Sherman biplanes. By early 1940, he has completed his training on patrol planes and advanced land planes. O'Hare soon impressed more experienced pilots with his skill. In 1947, O'Hare joined the USS Enterprise, where he met and married his wife Rita Wooster 6 weeks after meeting her in July. O'Hare earned his reputation and place in U.S. naval history on February 20, 1942. The USS Lexington, while en route to attack Rabaul, New Britain off the Solomon Islands, would become the first major carrier on either side of the Pacific during World War II to absorb major land-based air attack. That the Lexington survived was due almost entirely to the bravery of Lieutenant Commander Butch O'Hare and the pilots of Fighting Squadron 3. The attack on the Lexington came from 18 bombers of the Imperial Japanese Navy 4th Air Group. During the ensuing battle, Lieutenant O'Hare making a total of 4 passes over 9 enemy bombers, who were just in minutes of dropping their bombs on the Lexington. Downed 5 Betty bombers in 4 minutes and severely damaged a 6th. The 4th Air Group lost 15 of 18 bombers sent to destroy the USS Lexington. The intercept was far from perfect, with 4 of the Wildcats too far away from the bombers to reach them before they released their bombs. This left O'Hare and his wingmen within intercept distance. The wingman's guns jammed, leaving only O'Hare between 9 enemy bombers and the U.S. carrier. O'Hare attacked with considerable skill and impressive speed and accuracy. More U.S. fighters now entered the fray just as O'Hare ran out of ammunition. By now, the enemy attack was ineffective and the USS Lexington escaped without damage. It is estimated that O'Hare only used 60 rounds per enemy bomber, destroying them with an impressive display of marksmanship, especially considering the Wildcat had ammunition for only 34 seconds of firing. His skill earned himself a promotion to Lieutenant Commander, making him the first U.S. Navy fighter pilot ace and the first Congressional Medal of Honor winner in World War II. With all the glory that Edward Butch O'Hare got, the biggest achievement was the naming of Chicago O'Hare International Airport. Chicago O'Hare is one of the busiest airports in the U.S., being a major international and domestic hub for some of the largest carriers in the world, including United Airlines and American Airlines. In the history of O'Hare Airport, in 1945, a site selection committee appointed by Mayor Edward Kelly chose Orchard Fields, the location of a Douglas aircraft assembly plant located on the northwest side of Chicago, as a site for Chicago's new airport. The site had 4 concrete runways. In 1949, the Chicago City Council renamed Orchard Fields as Chicago O'Hare International Airport to honor Naval Aviator Lieutenant Commander Edward Butch O'Hare, a Medal of Honor recipient from Chicago who died in World War II. O'Hare Airport was dedicated by John F. Kennedy. O'Hare officially opened to commercial air traffic in 1955 and served 176,000 plus passengers in its first year. And then on August 8, 1958, this marked the date that O'Hare's first terminal, used specifically for international travel, was dedicated. The occasion was celebrated by a arrival of a TWA nonstop flight from Paris to Chicago. A total number of 22,000 plus international passengers were accommodated by the end of the year. As O'Hare Airport became more famous, by the end of 1961, flight operations increased to 86,000 plus departures and arrivals. And by 1965, the total number of passengers walking through O'Hare doubled to 20 million people. O'Hare Airport is currently the world's #2 largest airport in terms of passenger traffic, handling a staggering 77 million plus passengers every single year.
Yes, there are 4 terminals at O'Hare. The first 3 terminals are domestic terminals, so they just operate flights throughout the United States and parts of Canada. Terminal 1, as I mentioned earlier, is operated primarily by United. Terminal 2, you'll find a lot of flights, say Delta, JetBlue, some of the economy flights, and Continental. At Terminal 3, American operates that, and Terminal 5 is our international terminal.
The airport currently employs around 50,000 employees and generates another 500,000 jobs for the surrounding region, grossing some $40 billion for the economy. Most U.S. domestic carriers and a wide selection of international airlines serve Chicago O'Hare International Airport.
Well, United and American are hub airlines. United flies out of Terminal 1 and American flies out of Terminal 3. So those are the largest airlines. They're based here in Chicago, and they're, like I said, the largest. They also operate some regional jets, some of the smaller planes that fly throughout the state and throughout the parts of the U.S.
As O'Hare deals with the hub airlines every day, like every other company in the world, the holidays are some of the biggest times in O'Hare Airport.
For instance, during the holiday season, for Christmas and New Year's, we're anticipating about 2.8 million passengers to travel through both of our airports. That is down from last year. We had about 2.2 million, and so you can kind of get an idea that on any given day we probably have about 190,000 passengers coming through O'Hare International.
Even if the travel is down, it is still very busy.
Now is the busiest time of the year. Today, 2 days before Christmas, is probably one of the busiest travel days. Thanksgiving is huge. Anytime you have like a 4-day weekend or something like that, a lot of people head out of town, but of course with the economy the way it has been, it's not the greatest anymore. I think travel is down. I think I heard 10%. So people are staying home a little bit more, but yeah, it can get crazy.
Thanks, Karen.
O'Hare Airport deals with all types of problems, but one of the biggest problems they have is the overcome of the weather.
The biggest problem is the weather, and you can't predict that. They say in Chicago, it's like blink and it changes, so you never know what's going to happen here, and that's the biggest unpredictability about it. And so I think if you're traveling through O'Hare, you have to be patient because you never know what's going to happen.
O'Hare International Airport is one of the busiest airports in the world. It has to deal with millions of passengers every year. But at the same time, O'Hare has a big impact on the surrounding areas of which it serves. O'Hare Airport grosses in annually $40 billion for the surrounding region. It has made Chicago, Illinois, a major travel and business hub in North America.